On this week's NFV SDN Reality Check, we speak with Sprint to discuss the carrier's 5G plans and the use of NFV and SDN to support the service. Thanks for joining us on this week's NFV SDN Reality Check. I'm your host, Dan Meyer, Editor-in-Chief at RCR Wireless News. Well, the telecom space continues to embrace network virtualization technologies, including those based on SDN, NFV, and cloud. A recent report from Technology Business Research predicts the NFV and SDN market will hit $158 billion by 2021, boosted by early adopters such as AT&T beginning to ramp investments into the NFV and SDN ecosystems. The report claims that 116% compound annual growth rate will be supported by the redistribution of legacy infrastructure capital expense as operators implement virtualized environments and gradually decommission legacy infrastructure platforms. TBR noted operators could see some external operating expense tied to vendors for maintenance and managed services to support integrated and operate software-mediated environments. Much of these early moves towards NFV and SDN have indeed been led by a number of larger operators, including AT&T, Verizon Communications, Telefonica, NTT Docomo, China Mobile, and SK Telecom. However, a number of slightly smaller carriers are also beginning to ramp their investments in virtualized platforms. One of those is Sprint, which sees the need for NFV and SDN in support of its ongoing moves toward the launch of and development of 5G technologies. The carrier recently partnered with the Copa America soccer tournament held in various cities across the country to highlight its work in terms of 5G technology. Those trials included work in Santa Clara, California, and Philadelphia. Sprint earlier this year noted one of its concerns in terms of NFV and SDN was the maturity of the ecosystem, with the carrier stating that while it's looking at the technology, the ability to scale is key before it looks towards deployment. However, the carrier also knows it will need to embrace NFV and SDN and cloud in order to garner the most efficiency from its network plans as well as to meet its use cases. For this week's featured interview, we spoke with Gunter Ottendorfer, who's the COO of technology at Sprint, to discuss the carrier's recent 5G technology testing and deployment plans and how it has begun to increase its attention on virtualization platforms in support of those plans. Let's take a look at the interview now. All right, well, hey, thanks for joining us on this week's Carrier Wrap. I'm your host, Dan Meyer, Editor-in-Chief here at RCR Wireless News. And this week, we are joined by Gunter Ottendorfer, who's the COO of technology at Sprint, to talk a bit about 5G. So, Gunter, thanks so much for joining us this week. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I'm very happy to talk with you about this topic because we are still very excited. Yesterday, there was the big final of the Copa America Centenario. And as you might remember, we kicked it off with our 5G demonstration in Santa Clara, which was a great success. And it was the first worldwide public 5G demonstration in such a big setting. So we had, over the course of the days in Santa Clara and in Philadelphia, more than 200,000 people that visited those games and saw our 5G demo. So we are very excited about it. And we are also very excited that it gave us the opportunity to showcase to people what 5G could do, because we had on our stand, I think, a pretty impressive virtual reality demo via 5G. And yeah, so it's great to have that, and we will keep on going on that journey.
Very good. Yeah, I know some of those demonstrations, you guys were using a lot of some of the millimeter wave, centimeter wave spectrum bands as well, which I know a lot of people talk about 5G. That's a big part of it. I guess, can you describe a little bit about what was part of these demonstrations? I know people are still not quite sure what 5G means, and we'll, obviously there's standards and stuff to work there, but I guess what you guys were doing in terms of kind of the demonstrations there.
Yes, so in our demonstrations, we used in Santa Clara 73 gigahertz, and we used in Philadelphia 15 gigahertz. So obviously that's very high band spectrum. And we were happy to see that spectrum working in real life environment. We had no safety net. This was a live demonstration. It was all real time, and it worked very well. We have seen there peak speeds of more than 2 and more than 4 gigabits per second. And we have seen very low latency in the 1 to 2 millisecond range. So that is all very encouraging for the development of 5G. Obviously, 5G is in the early days. We are also engaged in the standardization, and we know that the plan for 5G is to be commercially really broadly available around 2020. But it is important to start this development now. Our experience with high-band spectrum in Sprint is a very extensive one. We use, as you know, on our network as the workhorse 2.5 gigahertz spectrum, and we have plenty of that. And that spectrum is considered to be the low band for 5G. So the 5-band spectrum will be higher than that. That's why we made the trials on 15 and 73, which basically is probably the mid-band and then the high band of 5G spectrum in the future. And we have experience with that. We are actively working in the ITU and 3GPP on the standardization of 5G. We are pushing that forward. And beside that, we have practical experience because we have done in the past not only the 2.5, where we get experience with high band, but we also have thousands of cell sites currently already that have backhaul via microwave in millimeter wave spectrum. And so we have experience in 11 gigahertz, 18 gigahertz, 23 gigahertz, 28 gigahertz, and then 80 gigahertz spectrum. And all of that came nicely together for our demonstrations in that area. And I'm happy with the results. And as we said, it's the beginning of a journey, and we will continue to work on that path.
Very good. Yeah. So I guess overall, then those high band spectrum bands, because again, people always there's always a little concern about the propagation characteristics of those. But for the most part, at least from the trials you guys were showing, so far so good in terms of how those things were able to operate and be able to transmit data over obviously short areas, but still being able to transmit the data there.
Yes, and that's where it's really important. For example, in New York, we have an 18 gigahertz microwave network. Mm-hmm. And so we have all the practical experience. It has been operating over the last years. We have all the experience with different weather conditions, with fog, with rain. We have experience in running in real life environment. And we see that if you respect certain conditions for that spectrum, it works quite well. And the second big aspect to this is with the 2.5 spectrum, we have a spectrum that is already high band today. You know that we have managed the traffic growth over the last years on that spectrum. With LTE Plus, as you can see behind me, we have activated carrier aggregation and beamforming on the 2.5, and both technologies will be integral building blocks for 5G. So we believe that not only we have really good experience with high band spectrum, we also have really good experience with the functionalities that will be building blocks for 5G.
Very good. Yeah. And obviously, as part of this too, it's going to require a lot of different deployment methods. Obviously, small cells are going to be a big part of this. I know you guys are working a lot with the small cell community there to get a lot of that stuff out there. I guess you can talk a bit about the importance of that experience you guys are getting with small cells, because again, as you work with 15 or 73 or 80 gigahertz spectrum, it's really going to require that expertise, it seems like, in the deployment of small cells and microwave backhaul and things like that too. I guess you can talk a bit about the importance of small cells for your plans moving forward.
Yes, as you said, it will be really, really the key for successful 5G deployment to have a different rollout strategy than we had in the past. We believe that with our densification and optimization strategy, we have already the right foundation for that. Because we are building structures today that we use for LTE, but we can then, they are already optimal for the 5G world. And that's why we put so much planning into our densification and optimization strategy. That's also why, there was a lot of speculation and rumors about our strategy. It is a little bit different than other carriers are doing, but we do it with our site already on 5G. We want to build those structures not only for today, we want to be future-proof. And I think to be future-proof, you need a small cell strategy. You need the ability to do densification on on a big variety of cell structures, not only classical macro towers. You need also pole attachments, you will need femtocells, you need small cells, you need repeaters to handle all that traffic that will be coming in the 5G network. 5G is about massive densification. It is about high bandwidth spectrum. And we have seen also that last week, especially the FCC made their big push to 5G. I think that is very well aligned with our strategy. It is about high band spectrum, for us the 2.5 as a start. It is about having easier access to infrastructure. That is our densification and optimization strategy. And then it is about having the ability to have backhaul. So this is kind of a three-legged stool. And I think we at Sprint have prepared ourselves very well for all three legs of that stool.
That makes sense, And obviously, to you guys, like you said, rely a lot on the 2.5 spectrum today, and obviously going forward as well. And even today, though, you guys, you have so much to play with there. You're only using a relatively small slice of it even today, and are getting some pretty robust speeds in a lot of markets. I guess can you talk a bit about are there plans to eventually roll out more and more channels for 2.5, or what's kind of the 2.5 plan in terms of your current LTE plus strategy, but then also moving towards whatever 5G is going to be as well?
Yes, so that is a very good question. I think we have with LTE Plus, where we have so far 2 carrier aggregation, created a really good foundation. We had also showcased the capabilities of the Samsung S7 device that has 3 carrier aggregation. In our labs, we achieved speeds of more than 300 megabits per second, I think back in April.
Yep.
And that really shows what is possible. So we are now, well over the next years, have the ability to turn on further chunks of our spectrum, and by that increasing not only the top speed, but also the capacity of our network, and with that, the reliability of our network. So I believe from that perspective, Sprint has really not only a great foundation, but a great opportunity to handle the data waves of the future. And we love to say, you ain't seen nothing yet. We have this capability. We will deploy it, and it will be very beneficial for our customers and their data needs. And we are also cooperating with our vendors to really get ready for that world. And it will be then, as a next step, 3 carrier aggregation, but then there will be also 4 carrier aggregation, and one day there might be also 5 carrier aggregation.
That makes sense. And obviously, too, as you're working through some of these trials, I know with the one in Santa Clara, I think you worked with Nokia on that one, and I believe Ericsson in Philadelphia, too. So obviously, the vendor support is big for all of this. I guess, can you talk a bit about the importance of those vendors being on board with this, and how helpful they've been for this? Because obviously, it does seem like operators are trying to move, obviously, towards 5G, and you got to have the vendors out there to help you as well. How important is that, that working with them how important has that been for you guys?
It is very important for us because we can only develop this ecosystem together. Yeah. And I think what we have seen from the vendor side is a big commitment to 5G. We have seen in these demonstrations really great efforts from Nokia and Ericsson. They have been doing very innovative work around all kinds of the ecosystem. Ericsson is doing very innovative stuff around modular 5G equipment, around Internet of Things. Nokia has demonstrated in Japan recently wireless 8K video transmission. So both of them are trying to push the limits further. It's an evolutionary process where operators and system suppliers have to work together. And we have been very happy what we have seen in those, particularly in those demonstrations with both of them.
Got it. Okay. And obviously, too, I know your equipment. You guys have done a lot of work over the past 5 years or so on upgrading your network as well. So it does seem like the network itself should have the capabilities somewhat embedded in the system now to really be able to roll out this additional support for whether it's 5G or just even more carriers on the 2.5 band as well. It seems like the network is kind of really ready for this next evolution there, what you guys are planning to do.
Well, I would put it that way. You need all these, we talked before about the 3-legged stool, you need all 3 legs. So we think we are ready because we have the spectrum, we are building the structure, and we are having the backhaul. Yeah. But you need all of those 3 legs. Otherwise, if you have too less spectrum, it will be very hard to fulfill that data growth that we expect with 5G. So it is an interesting task to get ready for it. But with LTE Plus, we certainly made a real good step into that direction, activating the spectrum and also implementing the functionality early, that gives us the capability to learn how to best use and fine-tune the functionalities of the future.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it doesn't make, I mean, people keep talking about this move towards 5G as being a very evolutionary type of, or revolution type of, network enhancement. But it does seem like some operators are still, looking to kind of keep their older legacy system as being a big part of that. But to really make this change, though, you really do need to kind of rethink how the network is going to work. And maybe currently you guys might be getting some heat for the fact that you guys are looking forward like that. But to really kind of support what's coming down the road, you kind of really need to rethink these deployments. And so it does seem like, while it might be a little, challenging today, it's kind of laying the groundwork for what needs to kind of happen, really.
I agree 100%. So I believe some of the things we are doing are really pioneering efforts for 5G. And as with many of the pioneering efforts, there is some heat and some pain associated with it. And that's why we are also very much focusing on making clear it's an evolution of an existing network. Yeah. So everything we build now is making our network even better. And you know that we were recently winning a lot of, for example, the Root Metrics Award, that we have very good benchmarks with Nielsen. We are building on that. We are making it even better. It's not about doing something new. It's about refining what we have. And the approach we have taken, and especially our small cell approach, is very innovative. It is, we are pioneers with that. So being a pioneer has some risks. But I think if you have a good logic, walk your path with continuity, then you will also reap big benefits out of that. And we are also, all the things we are doing are really very much aligned with the strategy the FCC chairman put out last week. He's talking about exactly the same things. Having the high band spectrum, having the right infrastructure in place will be key ingredients for America to be a leader in the 5G world. And that's what we want for the industry, and that's what we want for Sprint.
Obviously, too. And like you said, too, it is kind of all being built on the current network. I know people ask me sometimes, does 5G mean that we're getting, beyond LTE? But LTE is going to be kind of the base layer for everything that we kind of do moving forward. I mean, there was so much work put into deploying these LTE networks, all IP based and everything, that there's no need to get rid of that. And that's a great base layer. And just building 5G on top of that, like you said, is an enhancement to kind of what's already been put out there to this point.
I agree. And it will be a situation where you have, with 5G added capabilities, so the world of opportunities will get even bigger for mobile operators, especially if we think about things like narrowband IoT and those capabilities that 5G will bring. But it's an enhancement. It will build on the things that are already there. And so I'm really positive that with the LTE Plus strategy, that foundation will continuously support us. Even then, when we start 5G, it will be the right structure we have in place.
That makes sense. Now, I guess, are you guys doing much work? Because I get a lot of people asking a lot about kind of the virtualization moves towards SDN and NFV. And, I know the telecom market loves acronyms. And so every time we can get a new acronym out there, it's always great. Are you guys doing much work, I guess, towards using virtualization platforms as you look towards your 5G plans? Because it does seem like you're really going to need a lot of automation in the network and a lot of things to really handle what's going to be various spectrum bands and all these new use cases. Is that a big part of what you guys are looking to do rolling forward as well?
Yes, so we are spending a good deal of work on that, but it's kind of behind the scenes work. So we are testing different solutions. We're getting, one of the big things with NFV is it's a real paradigm shift for the telecom industry. And so what we are doing is we are tackling it first with our technical people. We are trying to get everyone on that journey. We are trying to get our teams ready. We do not rush into deployments because we believe that it will be a smooth transition process, a gradual transition process over time. And so we are getting ready. My experience, for example, with Telecom Austria Group is very positive. We did about a year or two ago the first fully virtualized stack in Serbia, and all the experiences I had there were very positive about implementing an NFV stack, about operating it, planning for it, and running it in parallel with the legacy hardware you had. And so I think building on those experiences, what we do here is first to get the team ready to start that journey with our people, building out the capabilities, building out a different mindset for that world. And then we will go and gradually increase the level of deployment in our network.
Yeah, that makes sense too. And again, the timing part of it does make sense because it does seem like when it comes to the software world, the evolution is happening so rapidly. I mean, every 6 months, big advances are happening out there. So yeah, there is no reason it seems like at this point to really rush too far into it because it is evolving at such a rapid pace that 6 months from now it could be a totally different platform out there for the most part. So you kind of need to be ready for it, but not jump too quickly into it.
And then that is the key point. You need to be ready for it because I believe with the coming second and third wave of data growth we will see, that will put enormous stress on our networks. First, we will feel it on the radio side. That's why further high-band spectrum is so important for the mobile industry. That's why I'm also very happy about the 2.5 gigahertz spectrum we have because we will activate that to surf those data waves. But then to surf those data waves in the core, we will need NFV technology because there's no other way that gives you the flexibility and the utilization that NFV does. So we are getting ready for it, and we know that this wave is coming, and we will be ready at Sprint.
Makes sense. Okay, well, I guess maybe one final wrap-up question, and I guess for Sprint moving ahead, obviously you've had 2 great trials doing the 5G technology connected with the soccer tournament. I guess what's next for you guys when you look forward a little bit in terms of your 5G movements? Is it, again, just more trialing and stuff, or I guess what do you guys see as being your next kind of advancement there?
Well, as you know, we talked about it a little bit in the beginning. The time frame for 5G is around 2020. Okay. So for the next years, it will be around trialing, improving, enhancing technology, testing new functionality, adding on functionality. Very much that will be the focus. But other than that, our focus will be the densification and optimization strategy, building the structures that are 5G ready, building a future-proof network. And then it's about further steps in our LTE Plus network so that we have the capacity for our existing and new customers and delivering really good and reliable services for them and surfing those data waves. And with all these foundations we have laid out, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Very good. Right, good. We definitely appreciate the insight on this. Obviously, like you said, you guys are doing a lot of work in terms of 5G. Everybody loves talking about 5G, but you guys are definitely pushing it pretty heavy. So we definitely appreciate the good insight on the topic today. Thanks so much for your time. And hopefully we'll touch base again soon as you guys continue this path down the 5G world.
It's a great journey, and we are happy that we could make some small but groundbreaking steps on that journey.
That sounds very good. Well, again, thanks so much for the time today. We appreciate it. Well, that'll do it for this week's show. Thanks for watching, and make sure to check us out again next week when we are scheduled to speak with Heather Kirksey, who's the director of OPNFV, to recap the organization's recent OPNFV World event. Thanks for watching.
NFV SDN Reality Check with Dan Meyer is a production of RCR TV. To suggest show topics or to reach Dan, you can find him on email, dmeyer@rcrwireless.com, and on Twitter @Meyer_Dan. For more Dan, news on NFV SDN, and everything wireless, find your way over to rcrwireless.com.